Awaken Light Audio. Awaken your mind, ignite your light.
Rebuild yourself. Daily mental discipline to reinvent your life. What if the version of you that's suffering isn't broken, but outdated? What if reinvention isn't a one-time breakthrough, but a daily act of war against who you're no longer meant to be? And what if the life you crave is already within you, buried under the habits, thoughts, and fears that no longer serve you? The doorway into reinvention. There comes a moment in every person's life when silence gets louder than noise. The routines that once brought comfort now feel like shackles. The thoughts you used to trust now feel like strangers in your own head. It reflects not only who you are, but who you're pretending to be. You know something needs to change. Not just your job, not just your schedule, but your foundation, your wiring, your identity. This is not about a motivational rush. This is not about doing more, hustling harder, or becoming some better version of yourself to impress others. This is about coming home to yourself, tearing down what no longer serves, and rebuilding your life. Not with pressure, but with presence. Not overnight, but over time. Not in chaos, but in conscious daily discipline. If you felt lost, stuck, numb, tired, hollow, or invisible, you're not alone. You're at the edge of something sacred, and this journey, it isn't a sprint, it's not a hack, it's a daily decision to rise from the ruins and become the person your soul was always meant to remember. So take a deep breath, leave behind who you were, and step into Chapter 1, where transformation doesn't begin with action, but with acknowledgement. Chapter 1. Acknowledge the need for change. You cannot change what you refuse to confront. Before the rebuilding begins, before the systems, the goals, the habits, the success, there must be one moment of raw, soul-level honesty. Something in me needs to change. That one sentence can be terrifying, because it means you're no longer numbing, no longer pretending, no longer blaming the outside world for the unrest inside. It's the moment you stop running and face the ruins. Denial is the enemy of reinvention. Most people don't rebuild their lives, not because they can't, but because they won't admit the foundation is cracked. We deny the truth because it's uncomfortable of what it means. Because if we admit we're unhappy, we feel like failures. But denial doesn't protect you. It prolongs your suffering. It keeps you stuck in places you've outgrown. It convinces you that settling is safer than starting over. But you can't heal what you won't see. You can't rebuild what you keep avoiding. The first discipline of mental strength is truth-telling to yourself. So ask yourself, where in my life am I pretending things are fine when they're not? What patterns keep repeating because I refuse to face the root? If nothing changes in the next 3 years, would I be proud of where I'm headed? Sometimes the bravest thing you can admit, this version of me isn't working anymore. Not with judgment, but with compassion. Because rebuilding doesn't mean you were wrong. It means you're ready to rise. The first practice, the honest inventory. Take 20 minutes today. Sit with a pen. No phone, no distractions. Ask yourself, what am I tolerating? What am I afraid to let go of? What part of me is screaming to be heard? Don't edit, don't fix, just observe. Awareness is the first act of power. Whisper to yourself, I don't need to have it all together. I just need to tell myself the truth. Once you've acknowledged the truth, you don't need to have a perfect plan. You don't need to know the how, you just need one thing. Willingness. Willingness to show up. Even when it's messy, even when it's slow, even when you're scared. Because transformation doesn't come from intensity, it comes from devotion. And that's exactly what we explore next. Chapter 2. Embrace the process, not just the outcome. You don't rise by reaching the top. You rise by showing up every single day. We've been trained to chase results, the promotion, the transformation, the before and after story. But here's the truth no one tells you. The magic doesn't live in the gold. It lives in the grind, in the daily effort, in the invisible steps no one sees. Because transformation isn't a single moment. It's a collection of ordinary days, stacked with extraordinary choices. Why we resist the process. Why do most people start strong and then quit? Because the beginning is exciting. It's charged with motivation. It feels fresh, inspired, alive. But when the motivation fades and the old habits whisper, and no one is clapping anymore, that's when the real work begins. That's when discipline takes over. That's when you learn to love the mundane moments that build miracles. If you want to rebuild your life, you must be willing to show up when it's boring, when it's thankless, when it feels like nothing is changing, because consistency is what rewires reality. Ask yourself, where have I been addicted to outcomes? What part of me still believes it should be easier than this? What would happen if I stopped rushing and started respecting the process? Growth doesn't always feel like winning. Sometimes it feels like quiet, like patience, like one more rep when your mind says, why bother? But those are the moments that shape the next version of you. The second practice, track the tiny wins. For the next 7 days, keep a process journal. Each day, answer, what did I show up for today, even when I didn't feel like it? What small progress did I make that no one else noticed, but mattered? Celebrate that, because if you only celebrate outcomes, you'll keep quitting before they arrive. Talk to yourself. I trust the process, even when I don't see the results yet. Now that you're beginning to surrender to the process, you'll find something beautiful starting to take shape. Clarity about who you want to become. Clarity about the life that truly aligns with your soul. Clarity that fuels your momentum. So, in the next chapter, we'll help you bring that clarity into focus, not just as a dream, but as a vision you can live by. Chapter 3. Create a clear and powerful vision. You can't rebuild what you can't see. Every builder needs a blueprint. Every journey needs a destination. And every rebirth starts with a vision so strong, it pulls you forward when your strength runs low. Most people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they're unclear. They're chasing shadows, copying others, running fast, but toward the wrong things. If you want to rebuild your life with intention, you must stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, who do I want to become? Why vision matters. A clear, soul-aligned vision does 3 powerful things. It gives direction. So you're not just busy, you're on purpose. It filters distractions. When you know what you want, you stop wasting time on what you don't. It anchors you when storms come, because they will come. But you'll remember why you started, how to discover the right vision. Not the one that looks good on Instagram, not the one that pleases your parents, not the one that strokes your ego, the one that feels true, the one that feels light, even if it's scary. The one that aligns with your values, your truth, and your calling. You find it in silence, in honest, journalling, in paying attention to what breaks your heart and what sets it on fire. Ask yourself, if I stripped away all pressure to prove or impress, what would I build? What does the most peaceful, powerful version of my life look and feel like? If failure wasn't possible, who would I become? The answers aren't always clear at first, but clarity is not something you find. It's something you create by listening inward. The third practice, write your vision statement. Set aside 1 hour. No distractions, just you, a blank page, and these prompts. What do I want my life to stand for? What do I want to experience, give, and feel over the next 5 years? What kind of energy do I want to bring into every room I enter? Then write a single paragraph that begins with, I see myself becoming the kind of person who, let it guide your rebuilding process like a compass. You're not chasing a fantasy, you're building a future. Tell yourself, I don't need all the answers. I just need a clear direction. Now that you can see what you're building, the question becomes, are you ready to start laying the bricks? one step at a time. Because vision is powerful, but without action, it's just a dream. And that's what we'll dive into next. How to take consistent daily action, not through hype, but through discipline. Chapter 4. Take consistent daily action. You don't get transformed by what you intend, you get transformed by what you repeat. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the flame. And only daily action turns desire into identity. It's easy to feel inspired for a day, harder to show up when it's inconvenient, unglamorous, or hard. But that's exactly where transformation happens. In the invisible moments when no one's watching. Why action beats intention. We all intend to change. We dream, we plan, we get excited. But it's not what you intend that builds your life. It's what you repeat. You are what you do consistently. Not what you say you'll do. Not what you wish to feel, but what you embody daily. Success isn't sexy. It's scheduled. Build systems, not hype. You don't need more motivation. You need a system. A repeatable rhythm that keeps you anchored, even when life gets chaotic. Morning habits that set your mind straight, a time block for your non-negotiables, a ritual to reset your focus each night. Discipline doesn't make your life rigid. It makes it reliable. And when you can rely on yourself, that's when real confidence is born. Ask yourself, what would my life look like if I simply kept the promises I made to myself? Where am I waiting to feel ready instead of just beginning? What's one small action I can take daily that aligns with who I want to become? Because showing up isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing. Again and again and again. The next practice. Your 3-action ritual. Design your daily 3. 1 action for your mind. Example. Read. Journal. Affirmations. 1 action for your body. Example, move, breathe, hydrate. 1 action for your vision. Example, create, learn, build. Closing parenthesis, commit to this trio for 30 days, track it, own it. Let your identity evolve from intention to embodiment. Remind yourself I show up, not for perfection, but for transformation. Now that you're moving forward consistently, you're going to hit resistance. You're going to fall. You're going to doubt. But don't panic, because the next stage of rebuilding isn't about doing more. It's about becoming stronger inside. So, the outside can't shake you. Let's cultivate the mental muscle that holds it all together. Chapter 5. Build resilience and mental strength. Strong people are not those who never fall. They are the ones who rise with more wisdom, not more fear. Every time you decide to rebuild your life, you will face resistance. Life will test your resolve. Your old patterns will beg for attention. Your mind will whisper, go back. It was easier there. But this is not a sign to stop. This is your soul lifting weights. Resilience is built through resistance. What mental strength really looks like. It's not about always being positive. It's not about suppressing pain or pretending to be invincible. It's about learning to bend without breaking, to fall without losing faith, to keep going. Even if the progress is invisible to others, you don't become unbreakable by avoiding failure. You become unbreakable by embracing the fall as part of the path. Reframe the struggle every setback carries. 2 options. You can use it as proof that you're not enough, or you can use it as practice to become more. You choose. Pain is not your enemy. It's feedback. It's invitation. It's sharpening you into someone who can hold the life you're trying to build. Ask yourself, what pain am I still carrying that I haven't yet turned into power? What would change if I stopped seeing struggle as punishment and started seeing it as preparation? How many times have I risen before and forgotten that I did? Because the mind forgets, but the soul remembers. You've made it through harder. You just didn't give yourself credit for it. 1 more practice. Reframe failure as feedback. Next time you fall short, pause and write. What happened? What can I learn? From this, what would I do differently next time? Then finish with, this is not the end, it's a rep in the gym of my evolution. Resilience isn't just survival, it's conscious rebuilding after every crash. Whisper to yourself, I don't fear the fall. I trust the rise. You've now learned how to stand strong when life shakes you. But there's a next layer of power that's even deeper. Not just responding well, but understanding yourself well. Knowing your own patterns, your blind spots, your internal wiring. Because you can't rebuild a life if you don't understand the architect behind it. Let's go there next. Chapter 6. Develop. Radical self-awareness. You can't change your life until you understand the mind that's creating it. Before transformation happens outward, it must begin inward. And the greatest tool you'll ever have on this journey, not motivation, not willpower, not even discipline, it's awareness. Because when you understand yourself, your fears, your triggers, your patterns, your stories, you regain your power. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop blaming. You start building. The problem with running on autopilot, most people live like passengers in their own lives. They repeat the same habits, the same thoughts, the same emotional loops, never realizing they've become puppets of old programming. We scroll to escape. We work to numb. We talk to distract. But when the noise fades, we're still stuck with the voice we never learned to listen to, our own. What radical self-awareness really means? It means you stop avoiding the mirror. It means you study your internal weather. Not to judge it, but to understand it. Why do I procrastinate when I feel pressure? Why do I get defensive when people criticize me? Why do I shrink when I know I should speak up? These aren't flaws, they're entry points. They show you what still needs attention, healing, upgrading, and until you name it, you'll keep blaming it. Ask yourself, what patterns keep repeating in my life, and what belief is keeping them alive? Where am I hiding from myself, under the mask of productivity or positivity? What emotion do I resist the most, and what would happen if I sat with it instead? Self-awareness doesn't hurt. The lack of it does, and once you start seeing clearly, you'll start choosing wisely. Another practice, the daily evening check-in. Before bed, write down, what did I feel today? What triggered me, and what was I really needing in that moment? What thought or belief drove my actions? This is how you reconnect. This is how you begin to reprogram the mind that once held you back. Talk to yourself. I am not my thoughts, but I am responsible for understanding them. Now that you've started observing your inner world, it's time to take that awareness one step deeper. Because it's not enough to just understand your emotions. You must learn how to work with them. You must learn how to regulate, to recenter, to remain powerful, even when the storm hits. That's the next mental discipline on your journey. Chapter 7. Master emotional self-regulation. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control how you respond. Rebuilding your life isn't just about doing the right things. It's about staying steady when everything inside you wants to spiral. Emotional discipline doesn't mean being robotic. It doesn't mean suppressing or denying what you feel. It means becoming skilled at navigating your emotional landscape, so your reactions don't sabotage your rebuilding. You don't need to suppress your emotions. You need to lead them. Emotions are messengers, not enemies. Your emotions are not weaknesses. They're messengers. Anger tells you something needs to be defended. Sadness tells you something matters deeply. Anxiety tells you something feels out of control. Numbness tells you you've been ignoring yourself too long. The goal isn't to eliminate these signals, it's to listen to them without becoming enslaved by them. Feel everything attached to nothing. How to respond instead of react. Here's a truth that changes lives. The space between trigger and response is where power lives. When you master emotional regulation, you stop sending regretful texts in anger. Stop quitting on your vision in moments of fear. Stop shrinking every time someone disapproves of you. You become someone who is calm in chaos, grounded in storms, rooted in purpose, not tossed around by impulse. Ask yourself, what emotion tends to hijack me most often, and why? What would it look like to honor my emotions, but not obey them? When was the last time I paused instead of reacted, and what changed? You don't rise by erasing emotion. You rise by rising above the reaction, without rejecting the feeling. The next practice. The pause, breathe, choose method. Next time you feel overwhelmed, try this. Pause. Step away mentally or physically. Breathe 10 deep, slow breaths to reset your nervous system. Choose. Ask, what response aligns with my highest self right now? Use this in moments of conflict, stress, or insecurity. You'll be shocked how different your outcomes become. Tell yourself, I am not controlled by how I feel. I am guided by what I value. Now that you've reclaimed your emotional balance, it's time to ask a deeper question. Are you surrounding yourself with what strengthens you or secretly weakens you? Because your progress is never just about you. It's also about the environment that either feeds or poisons your momentum. And that's exactly where we go next. Chapter 8. Surround yourself with growth-oriented energy. Your environment will either evolve you or erode you. No matter how disciplined you are, no matter how strong your mind is, if you surround yourself with energy that drains, distracts, or diminishes you, you will struggle to rise. Rebuilding isn't just about changing your inner world. It's also about choosing what and who you allow into your external world. The power of environment, your habits, your beliefs, your emotions, they don't grow in isolation. They are shaped every day by the people you talk to, the content you consume, the conversations you normalize, and the standards you tolerate. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. If you're trying to change your life while staying surrounded by those who fear change, you're not rebuilding, you're resisting gravity every single day. Audit your energy ecosystem. Let's get brutally honest. Who makes you feel heavy after a conversation? What habits keep getting triggered in the same environment? Where do you feel you have to shrink to be accepted? Growth is not just about addition, it's about subtraction. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away from what keeps pulling you backward. You don't need to hate them. You don't need to explain yourself. You just need to protect your evolution. Ask yourself, who are the 5 people I spend the most time with? And are they helping me rise? What environments make it easier to be my best self? Where am I staying out of loyalty to my past instead of commitment to my future? You can love people and still outgrow the version of yourself you became around them. Another practice, the energy audit. This week, create 3 lists. Energizers, who and what inspires, uplifts and aligns you. Neutral, who and what feels flat or without clear impact. Drainers, who and what leaves you anxious, doubtful, or unmotivated. Then, ask, what boundaries need to be set so I can protect the environment that protects my growth? This isn't selfish, it's spiritual responsibility. Whisper to yourself, I am no longer available for energy that undermines my elevation. Now that your outer world is coming into alignment, let's go back inside to a place even more powerful than motivation or discipline. The place where belief becomes behavior, where the story you tell yourself creates or crushes your future. That's right, we're diving into the one force that drives everything. Chapter 9. Reinvent your identity. You don't find yourself, you build yourself. Piece by conscious piece. You've changed your habits. You've upgraded your thoughts. You've rewritten your beliefs. But if you're still identifying as the person you used to be, you'll keep returning to who you no longer are, because at the root of every transformation is this truth. You will never outperform the identity you're loyal to. Your identity is not who you are, it's who you've practiced being. We tend to think identity is fixed, set in childhood, reinforced by experience, locked in by memory. But identity is not a fact. It's a story you've practiced so often, you stopped questioning it. I'm shy. I'm not disciplined. I've always been a people pleaser. But what if that's not who you are? Only who you were forced to be to survive. How identity becomes a prison. Your brain loves consistency. It wants your thoughts, choices, and actions to match your self-image. So even when you try to change your life, if you haven't updated your identity, you'll unconsciously sabotage yourself to stay congruent with the old you. This is why people relapse into old habits, why they ghost their own goals, why they feel uncomfortable with success, and go back to familiar struggle because it doesn't match the story they've told themselves for years. Who you were is not who you have to be. Let this truth sink in. You are not the damaged, anxious, lost version of yourself you had to become to survive the past. You're no longer that wounded child, that scared teenager, that burnt-out adult who said yes when they meant no. That version was built out of adaptation, but the next version will be built with intention, and you get to write that version now. With choice, with consciousness, with courage. Ask yourself, what version of me am I still loyal to, even though it no longer serves me? What qualities, values, and energy define the person I want to become? Where do I act like the old me out of habit, not alignment? Remember, your comfort zone isn't comfortable, it's just familiar, but your future doesn't live in the familiar. It lives in the rebirth. One more practice. The identity recast exercise. Step 1. Write a short paragraph titled, "Who I No Longer Am." List the traits, habits, reactions, and stories you're letting go. Step 2. Write a second paragraph titled, "Who I Am Becoming." Describe yourself in vivid present tense language. Be bold, be real, be you. Step 3. Read this aloud every morning. For 30 days, let your brain rehearse the new identity until it becomes the default. I am not trying to become someone new. I am remembering who I've always been beneath the noise. Talk to yourself. I am not my history. I am my alignment with the identity I choose every single day. Now that you've reclaimed the power to become, it's time to nurture the mindset that keeps you evolving not once, but for a lifetime. Because the real builders of extraordinary lives don't stop after one breakthrough. They stay humble, they stay curious, they stay hungry, and that begins in Chapter 10. Cultivate lifelong learning. You are either expanding or you are decaying. There is no neutral in growth. Rebuilding yourself isn't a one-time breakthrough. It's a commitment to never stop becoming. And that means making a decision. Most people never do. To become a student of life, forever, growth doesn't stop with goals. It begins after them. Most people treat growth like a finish line. They get the degree, they land the job, they read a few books, they learn enough. And then they plateau. Not because they lack potential, but because they stopped feeding their evolution. The mind, like the body, atrophies when it isn't stretched. Lifelong learning isn't about being smart, it's about staying alive. Learning is not just what you know, it's how you live. You learn from the books you read, the questions you ask, the feedback you reflect on, the people you surround yourself with. The discomforts you lean into, the failures you dissect instead of dismiss. Every moment has something to teach you. If your ego doesn't get in the way, and when you live this way, you become unshakable, because nothing is wasted. Everything becomes fuel. 3. Forms of learning you must embrace. Learning by curiosity. Study new ideas, perspectives, and skills. Be fascinated again. Learning by reflection. Review your experiences. Extract wisdom from your own path. Learning by challenge. Step into what scares you. Growth lives on the edge of discomfort. The fastest way to outgrow your old life is to outlearn the mindset that created it. Ask yourself, when was the last time I learned something that scared me but changed me? Where have I been coasting? On past knowledge, instead of seeking new depth, what subject or skill calls to me that I've been ignoring? Lifelong learning is not about being a scholar. It's about being in love with your own evolution. Another practice, the personal growth map. Create a weekly growth rhythm. Monday, read 10 pages of a book outside your comfort zone. Wednesday, reflect on one mistake or discomfort and what it taught you. Friday, try something new, a skill, a conversation, a risk, then track. What new identity trait is forming from this week's learning? This turns learning from theory into transformation. Whisper to yourself, I will never stop becoming the next wiser version of me. Now that you've unlocked a mindset of constant evolution, let's balance that hunger for growth with one of the most grounding forces in existence. Gratitude, because building your future doesn't mean rejecting your present. It means anchoring deeply in it while still reaching forward. And that's what we explore next. Chapter 11. Practice gratitude and emotional anchoring. Gratitude turns everything you have into everything you need. Most people chase goals, success, and freedom, but inside, they still feel anxious, restless, incomplete. Why? Because they've built an external life on top of an ungrounded internal state. You can't feel fulfillment while ignoring presence. And the bridge between the present and your power is this: gratitude. Gratitude is not a vibe, it's an anchor. Gratitude isn't about pretending everything is okay. It's about grounding into what is true. Right now, the breath in your lungs, the person who believed in you, the hard lesson that made you wiser. The moment of peace between storms. When you practice gratitude, you're not just thinking positively. You are training your nervous system to feel safe, steady, and supported, even in uncertainty. Emotional anchoring. How to stay grounded in chaos. We all get triggered. We all feel overwhelmed. We all have days that shake us. But when you develop emotional anchors, you don't drown, you don't spiral, you don't forget who you are. Anchors can be a gratitude ritual, a breathwork routine, a grounding affirmation, a walk in silence, a daily journal, a memory of how far you've come. These aren't small things, they are lifelines, especially when your mind tries to pull you under. I default to when life gets hard. What practice brings me back to center when I feel lost? What parts of my life have I taken for granted that I now want to cherish? You don't need a perfect life to be grateful. You need a present heart. And the more grateful you are for this moment, the more capacity you'll have to carry the next one. The next practice. The 3-2-1 anchor. Each morning, write 3 things you're grateful for, big or small, 2 emotions you want to embody today. 1 anchor you'll return to when stress hits. This trains your brain to spot abundance instead of danger, and over time, it rewires your emotional state to default to grounded peace. Talk to yourself, no matter what changes around me, I choose to be rooted in what's still good. Now that you've built a foundation of emotional stillness and daily awareness, it's time to cast your eyes forward, beyond today, beyond struggle, to a future you lead with purpose, conviction, and clarity. This isn't about dreaming. This is about committing. Chapter 12. Commit to your future with unshakable purpose. Discipline builds momentum. Clarity sustains it. But only purpose makes it unshakable. You've rebuilt your habits, you've reshaped your mindset, you've rewired your identity, but none of it lasts if you don't decide, right now, to show up for the life you were born to lead. Purpose is not found, it's forged. Most people wait for clarity. They wait for passion. They wait for a perfect sign that says, this is your path. But purpose doesn't come before action. It comes through action. Purpose is the fire you light by walking through what scares you and choosing to keep walking. You commit not because you're certain, you commit because you've had enough of holding back what commitment really means. Commitment is not motivation, it's not hype, it's not excitement, it's this doing what matters, even when you're tired, keeping promises to yourself in silence, showing up when no one's watching, leading yourself through every season. A committed life isn't louder, it's deeper. It's built quietly, brick by brick. And one day, it becomes unshakable. Your future demands a new standard. Ask yourself, what future version of me am I truly devoted to? What behaviors no longer belong in the life I'm building? What non-negotiables will guide me from this point forward? This is not about pressure. This is about power. The power to live on purpose, to stop drifting, to stop dabbling, to stop waiting. The last practice, the purpose contract. Write a short contract to yourself, titled, "My commitment to the life I'm building include." What you're choosing to build, why it matters, not to others, but to you, what you will no longer accept, how you will lead yourself forward even on hard days. Then sign it. Read it out loud every Sunday. This is your sacred agreement between your present self and your future self. Whisper to yourself, I am not hoping anymore. I am choosing. I am leading. I am building my future now. You are the architect of a new life. You've come full circle, not because you've finished, but because you now know how to begin again every single day. You've learned to embrace change, create clarity, take aligned action, stay consistent, build emotional mastery, anchor in gratitude, lead with discipline, reinvent your identity, keep learning, stay grounded, and now, lead with purpose. You are not broken, you are rebuilt, you are not lost, you are aligned, and you are no longer waiting for change, because you are now the one creating it. From the inside out, final affirmation, say this out loud: I lead my life with clarity, courage, and commitment. I am the builder of my future. I rise, rebuild, and reinvent, again and again, and I will not stop until I become who I was always meant to be. This is not the end, it's your new beginning. Get up tomorrow and build it.
Thank you for spending this moment with Awaken Light Audio. If something today touched your heart or opened your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. What spoke to you most? Tell us about your journey, your questions. Send it their way, because light grows when it's shared. Until next time, stay present, stay awakened, and keep becoming who you're meant to be.